you keep Torah mitzvahs, so you go into an OCD environment of, God cares if you eat today, but if you eat tomorrow, you're like the worst person ever. If you become a Buddhist, or go up the mountains and connect and meditate and think about God, then you'll have this tremendously spiritual experience, and it would tend to think that this is a much better reality or religion than whether you put black boxes on your head or not. However, this type of feeling of connection, or I enjoy this, even if you're doing a mitzvah and you get connection to that mitzvah, that whole connection is coming through your box, and therefore you're really doing yourself. You're really just having a relationship with yourself. You're really sticking God in your box. So we have this society, for whatever reason, thinks that in the Gashmi you have to run away from the Gashmias and you run into the Ruchnias, and then you're a better person if you run into the Ruchnias, because the Ruchnias is where it's at and the Gashmias is where it's not at. So therefore you will debase your body. Don't feed it. Go cover yourself up with snow and live in anthills and stuff like this, because you got to move away from the Gashmias and into the Ruchnias. And if you do that, you can feel, you feel spiritual. The problem with feeling spiritual is that that's how I feel. So therefore God can't get out of your head, where you're basically creating your own religion. So if God is in his infinity says put this box on your head, and you're like, well, I don't feel it, I don't feel the mitzvah, so there I'm not transcending myself, because I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go up a mountain instead, and be at one with nature. So then I feel good about it, because then I am creating what I think is godliness. Because only once I feel the godliness, therefore, do I think that I am succeeding in that relationship. So therefore, my entire relationship with God is entirely in my head, and therefore that's not God at all. And therefore, so if I say in Svara, it's more important to do the kavanas, these things are more important than the actual mitzvah itself. And I feel like I'm connecting to God. Therefore, that's it. Therefore, it's the feeling that I get from it. It's just me. It's just me having a relationship with myself, and it's not a godly endeavor. And I'm never going to transcend myself, because I'm just constantly sticking in myself. And whenever it feels good to me, I go to an ashram for 15 years. If that feels good to me, I'll keep on doing it. If it doesn't feel good to me, I'll leave, because it's old. So therefore I'm just bringing religion, connection, God, whatever it is in my head. So whatever my head can grasp, therefore that is religion, that is God. And whatever's outside of my head, so therefore it doesn't grasp. So it seems to be, for some reason, a difficult concept for people to get, that the revelation of God in the Gashmi is in the time of Mashiach will be greater than the time than the revelation of God in the Ruchnias today. So at some stage the revelation of God was greater in the Ruchnias, but as time goes on and in our lifetimes, so therefore the revelation is greater in the Gashmis. So a simple example would be putting the tefillin on. Now, if you don't feel anything in the mitzvah, that again, that's you transcending yourself, connecting to God. If I feel something in the mitzvah, that's a limited manner. If I learn, if there's halachas and there's Torah that give me kavanas in order to do it, and through that I can get a geschmack. So that's just I can just like relate, or again, the geschmack of doing a mitzvah is only, even if I understand everything, I need to then have some type of das or devekas to that kavana. But if the Torah says that kavana, so therefore that Torah itself is from God, and therefore if you have that kavana, therefore so that becomes part of the mitzvah, just like putting black boxes are the actual mitzvah. Therefore that kavana is connecting to God itself. But I don't have to have a geschmack out of it. If you're learning a Gemara and Reuven steals something and he's chayiv, you don't have to not like Reuven, and you don't have to think he's a Rasha. You don't have to like him. You can think he's a Rasha. It doesn't change the mitzvah of limud Torah that Reuven is chayiv for stealing, and that there's a break in that the actual mitzvah itself. And how do I feel about the mitzvah? But once you feel about the mitzvah, that's how you feel about the mitzvah, and how you feel about the mitzvah, it's just you serving yourself. So the only way to have that relationship with God is on God's terms, and whether I think it makes any sense or not is really quite irrelevant, and whether I enjoy it is really quite irrelevant. It's that this is how you have that relationship with God. This is how you have God's Torah and God's relationship, not my relationship. And if we're going on the mountain and doing these things, that's just because it makes me feel good about myself. And again, God's out of the picture. So coming back to physical mitzvahs, it's in the Gashmias. I don't feel God in the Gashmias. I feel Him in the Ruchnias. So that's nothing to do with the reality of the relationship with God. That's just because I feel that way. Therefore, it fits my box better. And obviously, if you're brought up in a different society or different nurture, then obviously you'll have completely different ways of connecting to things and feel differently about stuff.